Do you want to improve your life? Then stick around. Hello, welcome to the British Bookworm. I invite you to join me on a reading journey of discovery and learning as I work towards 1,000 books on all manner of subjects. After reading each book, I will present an in-depth review afterwards. My goal is to encourage a break from lazy learning to focused study within one's own personal development. To encourage many to choose the book over the internet, to seek real worthy knowledge as opposed to junk. For today's book review, we are taking a look at Stephen Bartlett's The Diary of a CEO, the 33 Laws of Business and Life. So far, over 1 million copies have been sold. Said to be the fastest selling Sunday Times bestseller in personal development since records began. A bit like climate change. Roughly a 10-hour read. It gets a 3 out of 5 for me today. When coming at a book review, there are literally an infinite number of angles to come at the analysis from. On this review, we are possibly playing the grey man, as YouTube algorithms are set up so critical thinking channels fail. But let's see if I can avoid the contentious issues, hey? I like Stephen, first things first. Before I go any further, I need to state that I genuinely think he's got his heart in a really good place. He's obviously massively successful, depending on how you judge success, and my little review isn't going to impact his world at all, let's be honest. But honesty is above massive success or popularity. Stephen's success doesn't make him right, doesn't make him free from criticism, nor even make the content within his book correct by default. Is his book full of substance or just another stupid guru guide that collects dust after its first read? Spoiler alert, I've read it twice in the making of this review. I do actually think there are what I call golden nuggets in this book. But first, who is Stephen Bartlett? Stephen is seen as an entrepreneur. He is seen as an investor and one of the most influential voices in modern business and media. As a member of the UK's big show Dragon's Den, where they decide whether to invest in up-and-coming businesses. I don't know if it's still running the show because I don't watch it. He started his business life incredibly at 18 after dropping out of university. Something I deeply respect, as my own views of academia has long been eroded. Just out of interest, have you noticed how all YouTube channels have stopped just saying like and subscribe? Instead, showing a bar with the percentage of the viewers who aren't subscribed with an emotional plea. Have you noticed that? Well, that's because Stephen applied this to his own podcast channel, which helped significantly increase the podcast subs. So his impact reaches far. All YouTubers quickly making this wallpaper, ironically, the term in this book. Over the years, I have watched hundreds, probably thousands, of podcasts. I used to have a rule that I must start and finish every one, even if they were 3 or 4 hours long. Believe me, I did actually get through them. I don't personally do this anymore, but as someone who loves podcasts, more in the past tense now, The Diary of a CEO never really appealed to me. Yes, I watched a few, some purely for this review, but regardless of the statement in his book about its growth rate and popularity in recent years, it's never pulled me in. After reading his book, I feel my gut instinct has been proven right. More on this shortly. As a book, I think it's really well written, simple, as he states was his goal, quick chapters with very interesting views from highly successful people's thoughts on the related issues. Excuse me. Overall, it's a book of positivity and possibilities. But does it stand out from all the self-help books in the genre? Is there anything new to learn in the 33 Laws? Excuse me, I always seem to get a cough when I try and do a video. Many people are very sceptical and scornful of self-help books, and rightly so usually. But also, I think these people never bother to try the points made actively in their own lives. If you never implement methods within a book but criticise the genre, then you, my friend, are a joke. My angle on this, and the whole point of my YouTube channel, is that not only should you read, but implement key lessons long term in your life to see if they work. Reading can change and transform your life, but not without consistency and dedication to the ideas within. You're playing the long game, like I am with my YouTube channel. So let's get real. If I asked you to try 33 principles throughout your day, would you be able to honestly say you got past 5? There isn't one human who could, in my opinion. While this is not the point of the book or any of his guided principles, that is to implement them in a day or a week, I am making a rhetorical point. Is anyone going to read this book and meticulously implement over the course of, let's say, 2 years, all 33 laws and principles? No, probably not. But that's not a reflection on the book or laws within, rather just human nature. 33 laws is far too many. It's impossible. Just like Jordan Peterson's 2 life-changing books with 12 laws in each are impossible to apply, like as if we are programmable robots of conscious action. But this is not to say that you cannot take several of them and use the general ideas into your life. I would actually say there are some really good life success concepts within this book. Some are common sense, some are modernised concepts of old themes, some strategies to gain more leverage on your goals in business and in your life. Let's have a look at some of the 33 laws. The 33 laws are split into 4 pillars. Pillar 1, the self. Pillar 2, the story. Pillar 3, the philosophy. Pillar 4, the team. Law 1, fill your buckets in the right order. I think this is a brilliant lesson in correct ordering of life plans. With 5 buckets you work towards filling in your pursuit of success. He stresses the order of you filling these buckets is the vital key of this law, which makes a lot of sense. Bucket 1 being what you know, your knowledge. Bucket 2, what can you do, your skills. Bucket 3, who you know, your network. Bucket 4, what you have, your resources. Bucket 5, what the world thinks of you, your reputation. A main point here is you should fill bucket 1 and bucket 2 before the other 3. That both knowledge and skills can't be lost, but the other 3 you can lose outside your control. How you use your time to build your life is extremely important. Law 2. To master it, you must create an obligation to teach it. Essentially, I'm following this law, attempting to review books on this channel. As a personal trainer, I was a teacher, and key points became second nature to me as I taught exercisers how to use machines or nutritional advice. He shares how this was a huge role for him as he set to share lessons learned or advice daily on his social media. Teaching others is hands down the ultimate way to learn a subject. But the major point here he makes here is if you can't teach to a child, then you're making it too complicated. Strip lessons down so a child can understand it. Law 3. You must never disagree. Here on page 26, we have a massive problem. While I'm not refuting his expert on the consequences of people's disagreement, I am absolutely not letting Stephen off here. The book nearly got binned for this, and I mean literally. Stephen says at the beginning that one of the reasons why we should listen to him was 700 hours of interviews with all kinds of experts and specialists. Stephen thus put weight here, and in several other places, in time within a topic. The weight of time within a topic. The problem here, he used climate science as the perfect example of how arguing with what is irrefutable science as backlash, making people follow this biological response to friction of opinion. Stephen, I have invested over 2,000 hours researching this topic hardcore. I know that my opinions are extremely well informed and based on reading the actual scientific literature, something you claim to have done on a very contentious issue later on the topic of psychedelics. I find this comment extremely laughable in its naivety. This has, as I hinted on earlier, shows how mainstream you are, and my guess is if you saw the evidence that categorically proves this statement deeply wrong, you wouldn't alter your public image on a topic that destroys real experts' lives, entire careers that have been dedicating to being the world experts that you profess, that inspire you. More on this later. What is interesting is one of Dale Carnegie's key tips in life was to avoid arguing or proving people wrong to get the maximum out of your relationships. The fact that modern science has shown we shut down when others challenge us directly makes a lot of sense. So while I completely agree with his principle in Law 3, using global warming as an example to gain points by the mainstream forces loses a lot of credit from someone who has actually studied it. I also don't necessarily agree with a life where you just agree with people blindly for the sake of a relationship. There are times in life where disagreement is vital. Like the forced injection of a trial treatment, which after the fact took extremely large numbers of humans away from seeing another day. More on that later, Stephen. Law 4. You do not get to choose what you believe. For brevity, I want to jump up the laws here, but I couldn't. Stephen uses a scene where a man with a gun to someone you love, demands that you believe he is Jesus Christ. In a recent interview, Stephen explains naively why he doesn't believe in religion, as such due to his views with a Catholic background or from a Catholic background. And I should stress it's a little bit longer than just recently because I'm doing this video sometime after I initially wrote it out. While once I agree with Law 4, I have to pull Stephen up here using the scenario with Jesus Christ. Let me tell you, Stephen, why you should use Law 4 to become a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ, whose name you use for impact. You're right, Stephen. Using Law 3, no one would agree that this man with a gun was Jesus Christ, who is threatening to unalive a loved one upon whether or not you believe he is Jesus. Wow, my friend, you've opened up a crevice to fall in here. A deep one. While you choose to refute Jesus as being who he claimed to be in a recent podcast, yet you use this example, something I find rather amusing. You don't use Muhammad, for example. Again, you're right, Stephen. Nobody could believe a man was Jesus, even in this scenario, no matter how hard they tried. But 2,000 years ago, 12 men not only believed a man was Jesus Christ that had left his tomb and walked on for 40 days before then, they died for that belief. They saw the man that they had followed, seen heal others and perform miracles, been scourged 120 times, a death penalty, hung from a cross, a second death penalty, speared in the heart, a third death penalty, die, be buried, then walk, when his ankles had been nailed and his shoulders dislocated, and rise into heaven. After 3 years of following this man and falling away, after thinking he was dead, they believed he was Jesus Christ because they saw him risen. Stephen, they all chose to take the bullet for that belief. Many have died in history for that belief. Many millions. While I agree with your overall point, I think you show a massive lack of education in areas you use to prove you're in the mainstream. At the risk of myself being mocked, you take a swipe at those who believe in Bigfoot. Well, I know for a fact you have ignored the literal tens of thousands of veteran hunters who claim direct experience with this being. It's extremely easy to make such sweeping statements against people when you haven't seriously looked at the evidence. What is more, Stephen, these men who have lived a tough life in the woods you couldn't even dream to emulate don't give a shit whether you or anyone else believe in Bigfoot or not. You actually show in Law 4 that you need to apply your own ideas somewhat harder. From a personal point of view, being completely open, Bigfoot is a topic that for most of my life I thought was utterly insane to take seriously and likewise internally mocked. Until in the last five-ish years I've listened to seriously hard men and discovered it's been within human culture all over the world for millennium. In life, my friend Stephen, you don't get to box all ideas into one category, the ridiculous category, just because it's easier on our reality, our cognitive bias, our own worldview. American politics is utterly, and I mean utterly, asinine in this utterly moronic labelling and box standard of political conversation. If you're gay, you support trans rights. Bollocks. If you support Trump, you're a racist. Then there are a lot of self-hating black and Latinos in America. If you don't like the dumb waste of space Kamala Harris, you're not only racist because she's black or Indian, but you're sexist because she's a woman. It's not because she's a talentless hypocrite who should never have frequented the janitorial cupboard of the White House. And I should stress, he eventually, about 6 months after I wrote the script, did a sycophantic interview with Kamala Harris. To be even more blunt, Stephen, I'm going to say something else. Anyone who uses terms like anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theorist, climate change denier, Islamophobe, transphobe, etc. is literally not deserving of serious conversation unless they admit the outright purpose of these terms. Just in case you don't know, they are merely to stop questions on anything to do with the topic. We even have child vaccines brought up in Law 4, which, once again, he references as if your views are anything other than what society states is acceptable, then you're going to be used as an example of bad opinions that need altering using psychological techniques. And I should stress that since this video was first put together, Trump has become the president, and not long after becoming president, he did a medical reevaluation on child vaccines, and a lot has come out subsequently on that topic. Stephen, have you done any actual freaking research about the pandemic and mRNA vaccines? I did. This is where you lose a lot of respect from me now, because you clearly haven't jumped into the deep end of the pool yet on any of these issues you use. That means you should keep your examples around things you know about. I don't know, like Yoki bars are tastier than plums, maybe. Something subjective and topics that have objective data that shows you don't have a clue. Well, I get we should challenge ideas that we have that are limiting our lives, and Stephen speaking in public and his personal growth is inspiring. This segment felt more like a looking glass to how the elite try to alter the views they now call misinformation, disinformation, by the use of psychological warfare, and that is literally what they're doing. It's not an exaggeration. It's not something I'm going to accept, and while I respect his overall lesson in Law 4, it's highlighted massive holes in Stephen's worldview for me. Law 11, avoid wallpaper at all costs. When I was a personal trainer, my classes were always full. People used to be on waiting lists to get in. One of the tricks I used was to never do the same class twice. While others did this because they couldn't be bothered planning, I would plan my classes differently every single time. I would recall individual characters and set different exercises that I knew their personality would love or thrive on within the unique exercise environment. We had a rig in the centre of the gym which was called the Spartan rig. I designed a class on the rig that we did every week. I happened to have a real Spartan helmet at home, and so I took the helmet into the gym and let it stand on a jump platform so it would attract questions. After every class, I would award the Spartan to one well-deserved participant. With the Spartan helmet on, barbell representing a spear, we would take a group photo and post it on social media, the social media platform for the gym every week. Suffice to say, I know a little on marketing and promotion. I was applying this law years ago as a personal trainer. I started posting class end photos many years ago on the gym page I worked at when then literally no one anywhere was doing this technique of marketing. I know it's quite a claim, but it is true. No gym in the UK was doing this. Within weeks, other gyms local to mine started doing it. Now it's so popular, pretty much every gym in the country does it. I cannot prove this originated from myself, but I know that it did. Now it's so common that it's expected. It's become like wallpaper. When I did the end of the class group photographs, I was applying it for marketing my class, but also to give its social approval to anyone seeing myself and the group identity for people to join. They look friendly, let's go to that class. I regret not making notes of my first group photos now, but within weeks, all the big gyms were doing it after every class on their Facebook pages and Instagram posts, literally everywhere. And I'm not joking, I genuinely mean that I'm claiming this, but anyway, whatever, it doesn't make any difference. Classes were kept exciting, everyone special, everyone was made to feel special as I talked to each person to try to get to know them, and the group photo brought us in to feel as a team. This law is a brilliant law. The idea that we all get to the point of habitation with everything that we use to blow our mind. With everything that used to blow our mind. Whether our favourite film or song, our favourite fitness class or gym routine, eventually we form somatic satiation on everything. I often say that you could buy the sexiest, fastest supercar in the world, but after driving it so many months, it has just as much value as my 2007 1.4 litre Nissan Micra. I love my car, probably more than your supercar if you can afford one. The car I can just about afford to own means more to me than your 50 cars in your super garage means to you. Trust me, you can be assured of that. I think law 11 is actually one of my favourites. As most people reading this law will agree, it's just obvious and one we all know all along. Considering it in all areas of your life and meditate on the definition, literally. You spend all weekend decorating your living room. The wallpaper you spent weeks looking for that you've just put up now not only fills you with pride, but as you step back, you decide you absolutely love it. Everything else is moved back into place, your coffee table, your TV stand, your sofa. Your wife comes back, she loves it too. You both look at it for a few minutes and she tells you she's very pleased with it. As you settle down, watching television, you keep looking at it throughout the evening and occasionally commenting on how happy you are with your colours and with your wallpaper choice. Friends may pop over in the coming weeks and briefly comment on the new decorations. After a month, you barely notice the wallpaper. Yes, you're still happy with it, but your mind has moved on to another room or your garden. Literally, every human being is like this. We become used to wallpaper, music, a new job, a new car, a better salary. This is why gratitude diaries are such a good idea. Every brand or product is trying to get your attention, and they'll use every psychological trick they can to draw you in. Law number 12. I think I'm coming down with a bug. You must piss people off. That first bit wasn't the law, by the way. This is possibly the most unwoke idea in this book, which is a surprise from Stephen, as I believe he would support or even be behind adverts that push woke ideology like the recent Jaguar campaign or Bud Light that actually brought the company's reputation. The point being, this is a very high-risk strategy. This is the same ideology, by the way, that is driving all marketing companies to kill off the white, traditional, straight Christian families from all their marketing, and where every advert has to have a black, Muslim, gay and trans in it to hit their diversity quotes. Quite literally, BlackRock have encouraged this. Once again, I support the principle in theory, not the last point, by the way. But after some thought, it made me wonder if Stephen's company and others are behind all the sick agendas that work in marketing. The main point here is it's better to have a smaller percentage of loyal customers with the majority of people hating you, excuse me, than for people to have hardly any emotional response to your product or service. It's funny, as it's exactly what Jesus Christ's strategy was 2,000 years ago. With billions of followers, it seemed to work for him. Yet, when was the last time any advert had Jesus featured in a positive way? Law 18. Fine for the first 5 seconds. I tried this with my first sentence in this video. I would say this is one of the best laws in the whole book. I'm actually going to quote Stephen. Imagine the customer you're trying to reach is called Jenny. Imagine right now she's just left home for work after a long sleepless night and an argument with her husband. Fuck, she's got a flat tyre and has broken down on the motorway in the pouring rain. She's now late for work, she's angry, she's tired and she's time poor. She pulls out her phone on the side of the road to call the breakdown service, and the first thing she sees is your marketing message, your advert, your content. What would you have to say to her in that moment to get her to hold her attention on you? I would say that most of us can relate to that scenario, and the point being made, if you can get Jenny's attention, then you're going to get most people's focus, aren't you? JSU states in the 6-minute X-ray that the modern day currency is attention time span. I think Stephen has got to raise a point with his major marketing point. So here's the issue I have with Stephen Bartlett. As a Christian, I must give grace to all, and I'm sure in time Stephen will grow away from what's formed my opinions on this current video. He uses data from researchers, behaviour psychologists and the rest as if this research is concrete, fact, irrefutable. Psychology and behaviour sciences are for a fact what are referred to as soft science academically. Maths, biology, physics are hard sciences. Stephen is putting weight on what many have called pseudosciences from academia. There have been serious reports showing that over 50% of scientific research claims in the soft sciences cannot be recreated, nor often is this attempted in these fields. While I personally believe they use manipulation on society using gaps they have found how humans function, I also believe a vast swathe of the scientific community and literature is extremely deceptive and downright fraudulent. Downright fraudulent. It's here, doesn't matter why I form it. It doesn't matter here why I form these views. Just know my opinions come from listening to hard scientists discuss the peer review process and publications of scientists' findings, and publications of the findings of serious scientists. While this is a book review, I have to comment on the supposed driver and creator of that book. Firstly, I suspect that Stephen didn't actually write this book, at least all of it, but I might be wrong. Secondly, that being within the system, even more being within the social media marketing system, Stephen is going to avoid all the real contentious issues because he knows that it would severely impact his success and fortune. His views on vaccines, climate change, Bigfoot are formed from extremely poor knowledge. That is just a fact. On Christianity, he shows a real lack of knowledge, which has created his worldview on this extremely important topic: faith in God, thus hope in life. In making this review, I watched one of his podcasts with Brett Weinstein, a heavyweight intellectual who I have watched for years and who I love and respect massively. Brett has been through the cancellation culture as a professor for holding firm on what is a man and a woman. He and his wife, both PhDs, were a voice of reason through COVID-19. Both academics, excuse me, analysing mRNA vaccines, lockdowns, climate change. Heavyweights of free thinking, critical thinking, and finding the truth. Throughout the interview, Brett highlighted the problems with climate change science and gave a fantastic breakdown. Stephen deliberately avoided any line of questions that deepened Brett's facts on not only this, but numerous issues. This was throughout the long interview. The Diary of a CEO was published 3 years ago. The interview Brett, quite recent. In my opinion, a person seeking a truthful conversation who has wrote a book that stated climate change is irrefutable, being anti-vax was a bad opinion, and claiming both were black and white, would have delved in or pushed back. Brett is a heavyweight intellectual. He and his wife never say anything lightly. Trust me on that. They just do not, and are extremely meticulous with their words. His views and opinions matter because he doesn't come out with them lightly. What did Stephen do? Very tactically moved over the evidence that, for charity, his old views, what leaked out in this book, were obviously biased against Brett's opinions, that is. If we are holding conversations with a massive audience, then surely the substance is what matters. If, as he claims in this book, we must hold ourselves accountable, admit error, or be flexible. If Stephen followed his own thinking within this book, I would have expected a, whoa, I didn't know that climate science wouldn't finance research into other areas that challenge the political direction. Or, I have never heard, Brett, that scientists cannot get funding if they aren't obsessing over CO2. To be honest, anything like this would have done, Stephen. And this matters. Right at the beginning, he talks about his dilemma at 18 of getting rich in the West or giving it all up and going to Africa to improve one person's life there. Here's the issue, Stephen. Climate change is literally responsible for millions of deaths in Africa. Not in the way you think either. An estimated 4 million people die every year due to fumes from burning fuel like dung in their huts. Africa is in desperate need for cheap coal plant power stations, but the World Bank won't give any funding unless it's towards green energy. The green energy industry is a massive con, by the way. And trust me, I've done my research on that. That's just one example. The medical treatment that was applied over 2020 to 2026 now, believe it or not, has taken an estimated 17 million people from this world. If you don't believe this, then you at the very least, it has harmed medically seriously millions of people, life-changing consequences. And if you don't believe that, I'm just going to be blunt, I don't give a shit, because I've done a ton of research, and I mean enormous amounts of research. So if you don't like that, I'm sorry, but the channel isn't for you. Or you can just accept the fact that I've got that opinion and leave it at that. So no, I'm not going lightly on Stephen. While I think there are some brilliant points, great ideas and inspirational thoughts, for me, this deeper assessment impacted my experience. Would I recommend it? Yes, definitely. Did I learn something from it? Yes, definitely. Is it worth reading? Yes, absolutely. I think the one law I'm going to apply from this book is the Kaizen 1% principle in Law 19. It's not a new idea for me. I use this method in my spinning classes from another book, this one. It's extremely important. Just imagine if we really apply this law every day within our own lives, careers and habits. That is, your goal is to improve on your last gym session, last run, last sales pitch, actively listen more, concentrate more, clean your teeth better, all by 1% at every opportunity. In Law 19, he shows some amazing examples how this works, and there are some real life amazing examples of the concepts within this book that are just incredible, inspiring, and life-changing knowledge. Just to be very, very blunt, regardless of my other views towards Stephen Bartlett. My own 1% idea, is to get a list of 100 small items that you can do within your own life that make your life easier, going to the gym easier, cleaning your teeth more regular, etc., etc. Write 100 things down, put a phone charger by your bed that's dedicated to that, take toothbrush to work so you can clean your teeth through work, put your trainers by the door so that you're training in your gym equipment, clothing, ready for when you come back from work to go to the gym, etc., etc., etc. But while Stephen may be the guru of our time within social media and business, I still feel he's got much to learn about these areas he's obviously a specialist in. It would have been easy for me just to create a simple review with a few on the tips within, but then I would have done exactly what I'm accusing him of doing. And I nearly did this entire script from scratch for the algorithms on YouTube to make it more likely that this book review were going to be successful, but F it. Which for a few more views or clicks, I'm just not prepared to do. If you have got this far and have read it, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. My last point is this. Throughout the book, we learn how the world is utilising psychological techniques that exploit holes in our human nature to influence us individually and the whole of society. They expose themselves throughout COVID-19 when they use psychological warfare on the population to use human behaviour so that the few could dictate to the masses with the justification that, well, they willingly followed us. The same techniques are used on us in marketing to make us buy shit we don't need. The same people who say there is a climate emergency also want us to buy items that are designed to have inbuilt redundancy in them. Your fridge, your television, your car, your mobile, your glasses. I could go on. While I think some of the points in this book are inspirational, and I actually intend to apply some of them into my own life, there is an egregious moral void in this manipulation. The question is, where do we draw the line between individual choice based on genuine needs and gross mass manipulation for the power brokers who think they have a right to lead us by control methods outside our own true identity. Where does our sovereign freedoms end for the gross demands of unelected elites who think they have a right over the weak and poor? Stephen, have you joined the elite? Has Stephen walked away from his true original dream to change the life of one poor African? Can he not see that working within the elite economic system is actually in some sense doing the opposite to his original dream? While I know he has done great things, can we be a key player and excused if on one side we aim to help a system that by definition squashed free will, just because on the other side we use our own fortune from the system to help a smaller number? I'll leave that with you. This is a great read, a great book actually, but knowing a little more of the consequences such industrial leaders are responsible for is a better balance to seeking the truth. If you believe in climate science, if you believe that the climate science is irrefutable, Stephen, why are you spending your life on increasing the sales and marketing of commercial industries which creates global warming by the use of massive energy requirements in manufacturing, for example, mostly in China, that produces the majority of CO2? That's a question. This generating enormous amounts of CO2, which causes this categorical global warming. To conclude, it's an excellent book with some great examples, lessons and tips within. However, I can't ignore Stephen's ignorance in vaccines, climate change, Bigfoot, crop circles, or on Christ. I can't ignore that he knows what topics not to go on here. After finishing this review, I was disappointed to hear I actually interviewed Kamala Harris, which further cemented my opinions on Stephen as a pawn of our times. I think Stephen is used by the elites while he thinks he's one of them. While obviously very talented, my gut instinct tells me that others have helped him massively be in the position he's in because they need him. I don't think he will ever be one of them, because he'll always deep down, he's always going to be deep down one of us. These are my honest thoughts, even if we end the review somewhat disappointing for the viewer, and I'm sorry for that. Thank you for your time, and until next time, get reading, learn something new every day and implement it. More importantly, become the best you can be. See you later.